We're now going to discuss entering a listing into the system. So we're going to go to Listings, Enter New Listing. Now back in earlier in the class we were talking about our preferences, and we specified residential and Los Angeles County as our preferences. If you are taking a lease listing or a lots and land income, this is where you need to make the change. You do not make that change once you actually get into the listing, you make the change now. You'll sometimes see people accidentally put a lease into residential. That's a violation of our rules. Now you have the address of the property, quite likely you have the tax ID. I would suggest that you use the search county records. That's going to bring up this search of our system. You know the address, so you're going to put the address in twice. So I'm going to put in 1700 through 1700. That means that we will then just be looking for that one address rather than everything that contains a 1700. Okay, so that brings up the 1. We do not check the box here. We select the property here by clicking on Select. And you'll see that that brings in the tax ID and the address. Note that there is a field here for new or under construction. This is a very dangerous field because if you actually check this, what's going to happen is it's going to wipe out the tax ID. Since you have a tax ID on this property, let's say that it's been completely rebuilt and it's got that new house smell, do not check that box here. I'll show you when we get into the listing how you handle that. Okay. The next step here is to just scroll down a little and we're going to go to Place Pin on Map. Now over here on the right you will see that we have a map and we have a pin marking where the property is. I would suggest going to the aerial view, and that way you see that the pin is on the house. And if we come down below you'll see that we have the latitude and longitude here calculated to 6 decimal places. This is calculated by Microsoft Bing, and our contract with them says that we are not allowed to share that with anyone else. It's their intellectual property. So we're going to do an extra little step here. It sounds silly, but it's very important. Point your mouse at the pin, press and hold the left mouse button, and as you move the pin around you'll see that the numbers change below. Drop the pin right back onto the house that you're listing, and the system now knows that you chose the latitude and longitude, not Microsoft, and we can now share it with everyone. So just a silly little thing, but very, very important. We're going to click Continue to Listing Input, and that's going to take us to the place where we're going to put in all the rest of the information. Now you'll see that there are lots of fields here, red with an asterisk, and this basically means that this is mandatory information. You cannot submit the listing until you've done all of these. Now the area, so we've just recently had a very important change here that makes this much easier. So I'm going to show you how to find the area without guessing. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to the menu bar. We're going to click on the green plus sign, which is going to open a new version of the MLS. Our listing is still here. We've now got the MLS. We're going to go to Links, Links and Documents, and the very top one is Carrots Market Area Finder. And this is a fabulous new tool. It has all the areas in Carrots in it. We're going to go to the address search and we're going to type in the address of the property. So we're going to do that. We're going to hit search, and what it's going to do is it's going to show us exactly what area the property is in. So you really don't have to guess any longer. So we're going to come back, and now in areas we're going to type in 646, which is what we just found from that tool. Okay, so that's a brand new tool, very, very useful. You have to go through and put in all this information. So for example, the map book, you have to get a Thomas guide and you have to select where it is and what have you. Now notice that some of the information has been filled in for you. So for example, you've got year built here. Well, we said that this was brand new construction. Notice that you have an or and then a drop down, and we can now select new construction, and now when people search for new construction it's going to have that new house smell. New house, you know what I'm trying to say. Alright, notice that we've got 2 bed and no baths. Now how on earth do we end up with no baths? The reason is that the assessor tracks baths in full numbers. We track baths by 4 different types. So that's always going to come in as 0, and if you leave it as 0, that is a violation of our rules. It's not accurate. So make sure that even if the information has been filled in from elsewhere, you put it in correctly. Now, we said that our house had been completely rebuilt, so we're going to say it's 3 bed and 2 bath, and it's actually, say, 1,600 square feet. So when we put in 1,600 here, the system is going to say, hang on a second, that doesn't match what I have from public records. So you now get to choose who gave you the number. So you can say the builder told me it was 1,600 square feet, whatever. Okay. Let's scroll down the page. Now you'll see that we have places where we have these big old lists of options. And a lot of people say, well, heck, why didn't you put those into drop-down menus so that we could, keep the page looking cleaner? There's actually a very good reason. If we had done that, you would not be able to search through them. The way we've left it, if you now press and hold the control key on your keyboard and then the letter F for find, you'll see that I'm using my Google Chrome here, and a little field appears. So let's say that I'm looking for the garbage disposal. As I type in GARB, you'll see that I just get that far, and well, here's the garbage disposal. Makes it very easy to find things. So for example, if we want to find the fields associated with pool, you'll see that it tells me here that there are 16 different pools, and I can go through and I can look at each of the places in the list where pool appears. Let's type in limestone. You'll see again that I only have to get as far as LIME, and now it shows me limestone counters. Now notice to the right here we have an N in parentheses. What does this mean? Well, we have about 2,500 fields for each listing in our system. And when we took the 6 MLSs and put them together, we all agreed on these 2,500 fields. And you have to remember that we cover a great deal of ground. We cover everything from mansions in the Holmby Hills to trailers in the Mojave Desert. Okay, so there's a lot of different interests here. And we got to a point where we couldn't agree on some fields. So these N, non-standard fields, that's what the N stands for, they appear in our system, but they might not appear in all 6 MLSs. Why is this important to you? Well, as a listing agent, there is absolutely no downside to checking every single thing that appears, that applies to your property. But as a buyer's agent, be very cautious about searching using these non-standard fields, because it's very possible that a house has, for example, limestone counters, but the agent might not even have had a field to enter in their MLS. So be careful when you're searching, but as a listing agent, you can absolutely check everything that applies. Okay, so let's pretend that we've finished up with our listing. We haven't, of course, but I'm going to show you that you really want to use save as incomplete. And there's a couple of reasons for this. Well, number one, if you've got some information that you're not sure on, rather than shooting from the hip, save as incomplete, go away, find the information, come back and put it in correctly. But also, very importantly, you cannot put photos in until you've saved the listing. So if we save the listing as incomplete, we can then go in and put in our photos. And of course it won't let me because I haven't got an agent ID. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch over to a different user that I have, and that way I can show you the next step. So if we now go back to listings and we go to incomplete listings, here's one that I put together earlier. You'll see that we've got the listing, it's incomplete. If I click on the pencil and paper here, revise incomplete listing, you'll see that I'm now able to upload pictures to the listing. I'm able to add virtual media, add external documents. Let's say, for example, I had a floor plan, I could add that. And of course I can change the listing information itself. So there we go. That was all about how to enter a new listing.